Hey, what's up, guys? Voisey checking in with another gym chat. Today, wanted to talk about, a lack of accountability and excuses, and like how these things construct a poor mindset for growth. Through giving information sometimes in a personal work or any other kind of setting. These days it seems to be met with immediate defensiveness rather than, any level of appreciation or even understanding. It's like, just because I'm telling you something doesn't mean that I'm blaming you or coming down on you or even really critiquing you. I guess it could be that, but it might be something that you just were unaware of. So there's no real blame to be placed. There's no reason to be defensive about it. It's just bringing something to your attention, like, hey man, you got a moco in your nose, or you have something in your teeth. You wouldn't be like, well, nobody told me that I had anything in my teeth, or, it's supposed to be there, don't worry about it. You should be saying thank you. Matter of fact, this is gonna be one of the best tools that I can give you to separate yourself from possible critiques in such a way that you're being gracious, acknowledging, and then you can decide how to really take it in later. You say, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. I will make sure to address this as a priority in the future. Boom, point blank period. That's all you got to say. That gets you off the hook. That lets them know you understood what they said to you. And then you can feel about it however you want to feel about it later and not introduce some inappropriate energy into a harmless situation. You know what I'm saying? So again, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. I'll make sure that we address this in a timely manner. It's that simple. You know what I'm saying? Somebody at your work could be training you. Somebody in your personal life might be giving you some insight on a perspective that you're not looking from. And it's so easy to be in the mindset that you know everything, but we don't. Most people won't even Google information that they're unsure about. It's easier to respond and ramble off something and then, we'll probably never revisit this conversation. So I don't have to have any accountability for what I said. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to have any responsibility on how it's going to impact you. Really, I don't care. It's not that important to me. I see this in my children, but when it shows up in adults, it's weird for me because, we should be able to communicate effectively. More often than not these days, it feels like communication is there to respond versus to be heard and understood. And again, it's like, I've spoke about this previously, how perceived racism isn't necessarily where the buck stops for me. I've had to deal with people that I've had serious disagreements with through business. But, most of the time we reach this common ground because, again, through business, we have similar goals. And like I said, the more that I look at life, the more I see it as business. Business is easier to run. I can love a business and still detach from it. You know what I'm saying? I can love what I'm doing and still not be so emotionally wrapped up in it that if something goes wrong, like I melt down. When you're dealing with personal, intimate relationships, there's a different level of intimacy and vulnerability there because the trust is supposed to be infinite, infallible. You know what I'm saying? The whole reason I let you into my life is because I trusted you not to deceive me, not to steer me wrong, not to destroy something I trusted you enough to help build with. In business, there's none of that. In business, I expect you to double cross me and do some kind of petty shit. A, because you don't look at my baby the same way that I look at it. B, you don't share the vision that I do. I hired you to do a job, though, not expecting you to bat 1,000. You know what I'm saying? Whereas if I'm introducing you into personal life, it's like, man, this is a different level of my time, effort, energy, and attention that I am associating with this particular interaction. So, and I feel like that's more of a divide about relationships these days. Again, in a time where we allegedly communicate more than ever, what we're actually saying to each other is all for naught. It seems people out there, I won't quantify it, but there are individuals that are trying to share insight that portrays something that doesn't match the reality behind the camera. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants to show all their best moments. Sorry about that. We'll take that out. I get called out for chewing gum a lot. People want to take and show their best moments, but they don't want to also highlight those negative moments. You know, and like I said, because I eat my cake, I share with you guys about my failures, not just my triumphs. There's a lot of heartache and pain that came before this version of me that you see right now. But again, I keep digging in. When I run into situations, my core desire is to dig in and elevate. You know what I'm saying? Like all the time. That's because I've had to deal with adversity so much. And again, most of this comes from dealing with intimate relationships. You know, again, whether it be friends, family, or, you know, a potential life partner. You know, and it sucks to be jaded to the point where you no longer want to engage in some of those acts, but at the same time, like, everybody's been hurt before. You know, most of us, it started really young, unfortunately, and, you know, we never really sought the information. This is another thing, like I was talking about, you know, a situation with my parent and how, you know, it was established that we're not friends. I'm more comfortable establishing that kind of connection with my children because I know that I'm not infallible. I've made tons of mistakes. My daughter, I've had to talk to her several times, or, you know, throughout her life about mistakes that I've made, you know. She gets a little big-headed sometimes and, you know, tries to overstep her boundaries, but it's a part of life. Like, she's coming into her own. She's a growing little girl that's, you know, blossoming into a lovely young woman, and like, I want the best for her. But I want that connection as well. That's why I'm not stifling, you know, that friendship connection, but at the same time, I prioritize that parent connection. Whereas when I was growing up, again, that friendship connection was just non-existent. You know what I'm saying? Because for whatever reason, I don't think my people had the resilience to admit that they made mistakes or did things wrong. Like, even still to this day, it's weird, you know, but like, whatever time frame that they grew up in and whatever they went through, if that's how they had to solidify their mindset so that they could proceed accordingly, hey man, there's pros and cons to everything. Again, it's a double-edged sword. For whatever reason, it helped them, you know, cut their way through life, but it also limited connections, you know, that could have been blossoming and beneficial. Some people love to burn bridges. You know, one of my brothers, I never understood this kid, but like, he's just so relentless. It's inspirational. Like, I've seen him run into wall after wall after wall and just keep getting up and going in. And like, that's where I got some of that from. I took some of that energy from me because I'm from that cloth. I'm of that ilk, you know what I'm saying? We refuse to be stopped, but at the same time, I don't go around burning bridges like that, you know? For some people, they will set it on fire, watch it blaze, and then yell to you from the other side to, you know, good for you. GFY, if you know what that means, good for you, you know what I'm saying? But we'll be YouTube friendly in this situation. By the way, that's another way to get around that for anybody that you might be talking to, whether it be a guest at work or a young child. Hey, good for you, buddy, except it means go. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, some people are habitual bridge burners. They're arsonists in that light, you know, because they build them so fast, it's so easy to watch it go down. That's what their thing is. It takes time for me to build a bridge, and again, you know, allow that kind of trade initiation to start. So I'm not looking to burn bridges. You know, I'll walk away from it and leave it standing, but I just won't use that particular trade route, you know, unless I absolutely have to. Again, liabilities are not useless. You just have to be aware that it's a liability while you're initiating with that particular asset, you know? So again, it's that level of accountability. Again, thank you for bringing this to my attention. We'll make sure that this gets addressed in a timely fashion. If you're in the service industry, your guest is probably a one-time visitor letting you know something. It might be the 10th time that you heard that particular thing. They don't know that. You know what I'm saying? Let them off the hook. Send them off with good tidings. Thank you so much for letting me know about that. I'll make sure to communicate that with my managers. I wish you all the best. You know what I'm saying? It's that simple. So like, accountability, again, taking that accountability, making sure that you aren't making excuses, man. Because the worst excuse that you can make is an excuse not to learn something. That limits you in ways that you will never recognize. Because again, for people that are above you, that want to see you succeed, if you're cutting yourself off at the knees from something as simple as taking in new information, you're dead weight at that point. There's nothing I can do with you. I can't convince you to drink the water. I can't convince you that this water isn't poison. Hey, boo. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing that I can do until you come around and decide to alter that for yourself. So, you know, again, as a student of life, my number one desire is to continue to learn. This is what I was here for. And then again, I want to learn, I want to build, I want to teach. I want to be a jack of all trades. Remember, I want to have a wide basis to build on. You know, I want to know a lot about a little bit and expand on that. I don't need to know everything about one particular source. You know, I want to draw information from all things. I want to be able to learn on all fronts. Again, this is why I don't eliminate liabilities as potential assets, because again, even liabilities have value based on how you choose to interact with that liability. People would when I was younger, I would ask people, it's like, why do you have such a negative connotation about being used? If I don't use you, I don't consider you useful. You want to be considered useful, but then at the same time, just like it is in any other facet of life, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. Ignorance of financial knowledgeability is not an excuse. Ignorance of relationships, what have you, it's not an excuse. You need to be willing to take on information, Google something, and learn a little bit about what you might be going through in the time that you're going through it, or even after. It's never too late to learn. That's the most beautiful part about it. you should be able to reflect and maybe draw on a situation that you went through years ago. Again, this is the nature of therapy, and learn something that can help you push forward into a stronger, brighter future. Vibrant, exciting, willing to assist, holler at your boy. You know what I'm saying? But this is the power of learning. This is what taking in new information and learning can actually give to you. Are you willing to take advantage of that opportunity? You gotta be willing to use it. You can know all the stuff that you need to, but if you don't have the experience putting it into actual practice, because again, knowledge versus experience, two different things. If you've never used the knowledge that you have to put it into actual practice to gain the experience, useless. Point blank period, doesn't matter. So again, want to encourage, take on responsibility. Hey man, thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. I'll make sure that we look into that in a timely fashion. Hey man, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'll make sure that I incorporate that into my regular process from moving forward. I appreciate you so much for letting me know that. I wasn't aware, I wasn't aware of that until this time, but again, I'll make sure that I take and make use of that information you provided. Do it with a smile. It'll alter how they look at you, and then you'll be able to maintain a stronger control, I guess, over the direction in which you steer a lot of your interactions. Again, this comes back from dealing with customer service for most of my life. You know, you had to be able to maintain frame through some intense dialogues so that you could steer that interaction into a positive resolution. The difference between, again, that and a personal asset, I don't know these individuals personally, whereas somebody that I do know on a personal level can fire shots at me, that are unwarranted, unnecessary, and will really throw you off of your game. I always said that getting into relationships is like, I'm giving you ammunition, trusting you not to friendly fire on me. But more often than not, what people end up doing is loading up and they'll empty that clip at you. That's the difference. In business, I'm expecting that to happen. I've been in business a lot. It's cutthroat. In personal life, coming to a place where I should feel safe and be allowed to be vulnerable, being a victim of friendly fire in that space hurts. I'm gonna end it on that note because we can maybe touch on that on a different time. If you have heard anything that I discussed and you want me to expound on that, there's contact information. This should be on all of my videos. If not, it's on my main page in the About Me section. You can always shoot an email and ask me to expound on anything, or we can, discuss setting up coaching calls as well. I appreciate you guys again, as always, for tuning in. Take on the benefit that learning has to offer. Stop making excuses for yourself. And on that note, Wages out.